The Bible talks about the voice of God, but what does it mean? Now please look up. The concept of voice is not limited to the speakings of God alone. This is the first thing I want you to understand. The Bible generically uses the expression voice, but then it is not limited to the vocal communications or the speakings of God. Are we together? When we talk about the voice of God, it represents, you may write this down if you're writing, it represents all the spiritual channels and the pathways that God uses to communicate his will and his intent. Let me take it again. That the concept of the voice of God is not limited to the speakings of God alone, but that it represents all the spiritual channels. The voice of God represents all the spiritual channels and pathway he uses to communicate his will and intent. If you're writing, underline the word spiritual channels, underline the word will and intent. That is very important, because the whole idea behind the voice of God or the communications of God is to make his will and his intent known. Please look up. Please look up. I need you to understand that the power of God, which is responsible for all the possibilities we enjoy in this kingdom, are we together? The power of God is the principal sponsor for every result that we enjoy in this kingdom. But the power of God has jurisdictions for operation. It does not operate arbitrarily. The power of God was mandated by God to only function within the jurisdiction of his will and his intent. That means outside of the will and the power of God, the will and the intent of God, the power of God does not have any assignment. The assignment of the power of God is to make the will and the intent of the Father come to pass. That means you only call for the attention of the power of God to the degree to which you are consistent with the will of God. It's important you understand this. The administration of the power of God only functions and finds expression within the jurisdiction of his will. It says when you pray that your kingdom come. How? By your will being done in earth as it is in heaven. Are we still together? That means if you cannot discern, perceive, or receive the will and the intent of God, you may never be able to experience the possibilities of God. This is why the voice of God is so important, because his power follows his voice.